let's just get right into it. Today, in this explainer, we're talking about a number, specifically $10,000. Because the first 10 grand you save, it isn't just a number on a screen. It is literally the dividing line between total financial chaos and actual control. Most people think the life-changing money number is like $1,000,000. And yeah, obviously, $1,000,000 changes things. But going by our sources, hitting that first 10K actually changes your behavior way more than the next 100,000. There's this incredibly powerful quote from the source material, "Panic is expensive." And that really hits the nail on the head. Going from $0 to $10,000 is basically about removing this massive invisible tax, the tax of living in constant financial panic. Because when you have zero savings, every single tiny problem becomes a full-blown crisis, right? A missed paycheck turns into overdraft fees. A sudden family emergency turns into a high-interest payday loan. Panic forces your hand, and you literally end up paying a premium just to survive the week. So to really understand how to build this foundation, we're going to break this journey down into 6 clear steps. The cost of panic, the math of 10 grand, the 3 wealth layers, the boring money trap, how to get there, and finally, moving from defense to offense. All right, step 1, the cost of panic. Let's really look at the immense emotional and financial toll of not having a safety net. We all know that feeling, don't we? You check your account and technically, yeah, you have money, maybe $847 sitting right there. But emotionally, you feel entirely broke. It's that sinking feeling that you are exactly one flat tire or one slow work week away from all that money just vanishing, like it was never even real. When you're in that spot, money feels less like a useful tool and way more like oxygen. You're definitely not plotting out long-term wealth. You're literally just trying to survive until Thursday without getting completely wiped out by a random bill. And that feeling of oxygen deprivation leads directly into what our sources call defense mode. See, when you have $0 saved, your brain literally alters its ability to think clearly. Financial stress doesn't just drain your bank account, it severely impacts your daily decision-making. You completely stop asking what's best for your future, and you just ask, okay, what's going to get me through the week? This is exactly why people stuck in defense mode end up accepting severely underpaid work or putting off idle repairs or taking out awful loans just out of sheer necessity. It's a complete psychological trap. Which brings us to step 2, the math of $10,000. Let's look at the cold, hard numbers of why panic costs so much. Just imagine 2 people. They have the exact same income, the exact same expenses. Person A has $300 saved. Person B has 10 grand saved. Now, boom, they both get hit with the exact same $1,200 car repair. For person A, absolute financial disaster. They don't have the cash, so it goes straight onto a credit card. But for person B, that exact same event is just, well, a temporary, annoying inconvenience. They pay the mechanic, their savings drops to $800, and they cheerfully move on with their life. Same emergency, totally different reality. But for person A, the nightmare is really just getting started, all because of this truly devastating number. 20%. That's the average credit card interest rate they're probably going to get hit with. So by only making minimum payments, that one $1,200 car repair silently snowballs. It turns into this incredibly stressful monthly payment loaded with heavy interest. It basically becomes another permanent bill that keeps them trapped, completely preventing them from saving a single dime the next month. And that right there is why having a cash buffer is like wearing a heavy coat in a blizzard. Or, the way our source frames it, it's like a boxer absorbing a punch. Look, most financial disasters are honestly just normal life events. Cars break down, phones get dropped, rent goes up. These things aren't rare, but they morph into deep financial trauma when you have zero savings. If you've got that 10 grand, you can absorb the punch, step back, shake it off, and just keep going. Okay, step 3, the 3 wealth layers. This is how we actually break down that 10K goal without getting completely overwhelmed. You really don't have to look at $10,000 as one massive, impossible mountain. You do it in layers. First, you build layer 1, your emergency shield. That's about $1,000 to $2,000. This is what stops those small problems, like a broken laptop or an urgent care visit, from turning into toxic debt. Then you build layer 2, the stability fund, which is around $3,000 to $6,000. That covers a month or 2 of basic living expenses. And trust me, that gives you massive emotional breathing room. Finally, layer 3 is the opportunity fund, taking you up to the full 10K. That's where you can actually start looking ahead, maybe finally taking that certification course or buying equipment for a side hustle. And this layered foundation, it completely changes your daily life, especially your career. Why? Because desperation is incredibly easy to smell. Employers smell it, clients smell it.
When you have no savings, your boss literally has absolute power over your time because you desperately need that next Friday paycheck. But once you've got that 10K cushion, man, you carry yourself differently. You can negotiate from a position of actual strength, you can confidently say no to terrible offers, and you can comfortably survive a gap between jobs. Plus, this stability completely changes how you invest. Check this out. $360,000. That is the staggering potential wealth you could build just by investing $300 a month for 30 years at a 7% return. But, and here is the huge catch from our sources, you can only stay consistent enough to achieve that compound growth if your life isn't constantly one minor emergency away from total collapse. If you invest without an emergency fund, the very first time your car engine makes a weird noise, you'll have to sell off your investments in a blind panic. That 10K foundation is the exact thing that allows you to leave your investments alone so they can actually grow.
Moving on to step 4, the boring money trap. This is crucial, why you absolutely cannot spend this foundation once you finally build it.
You know, the moment some folks see 5 figures sitting in their bank account, they start acting a little weird. They think, wow, I survived the math. I totally deserve a vacation. Or maybe I should upgrade my phone. No, you have to realize this foundation is meant to be boring money. This is not flex money or, hey, I saw a killer deal online money. It is stable, quiet money meant to literally just sit there and protect you. Ironically, boring money is exactly what keeps your life exciting because it means your daily life has way fewer emergencies. The source material has this brilliant quote. You wouldn't build the foundation of a house and then say, amazing, let's remove half of it and buy a couch. I mean, that perfectly captures how absurd this mistake is, right? You spend months or even years fighting the math and your own bad habits to build the security, and then immediately want to reward yourself by spending it. If you spend the foundation, you are right back in the blizzard without a coat. Once your account hits 10 grand, it absolutely has to become a hard rule that you simply do not touch it for lifestyle upgrades, period. So, step 5, how to get there. Let's get incredibly practical here and look at the actual tactical steps to reach that 10 grand. Building this foundation requires strict rules, not just pure motivation, because let's be real, motivation fades after about a week. First, pick a real number. Even $250 a month gets you there in 40 months. Second, pay yourself first through automation the literal second your paycheck hits. Third, hide the account. Put it at a completely different bank so you aren't constantly tempted to transfer it over. Fourth, use windfalls like tax refunds or work bonuses to instantly upgrade your foundation, not your lifestyle. And fifth, attack the big leaks in your budget. Sure, cutting out daily coffee helps, but your housing, transportation, and those endless food delivery apps, that is where the real money is hiding. Let's look at a timeline comparing 2 guys, David and Mark, to see how this plays out in the real world. They make the exact same income, but Mark meticulously saves $500 a month, while David keeps waiting for, the perfect time to start. Fast forward to month 12. Boom, a $1,500 emergency hits them both. David puts it on a high-interest credit card and gets completely trapped with monthly payments. Mark, he just pays cash. It's annoying, sure, but he easily rebuilds. By month 20, Mark hits his $10,000, while David is still treading water in debt. Slow, boring progress absolutely wins over time. It proves that consistency is what survives life's inevitable emergencies. And finally, step 6, defense to offense. This is the big identity shift that brings us to the ultimate resolution of this explainer. The real reason everything changes once you hit this number is that your money fundamentally transitions from playing defense to playing offense. Before you have the 10K, you're constantly reacting to the world. You are just trying to avoid disaster and barely survive. But after you lock in that foundation, you can actually plan. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is perpetually behind, and you become someone who actively pursues opportunities. You prove to yourself that you can set a massive goal and actually reach it, which makes long-term wealth building suddenly feel incredibly possible. Because that exact shift from reacting to planning is where true wealth actually begins. It really isn't just about earning more money. It's about having enough solid stability to repeatedly make better life decisions. So as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you to ponder this. What incredible things will you finally build next once you give yourself the space to breathe and you're no longer controlled by every single emergency?